Hi there, it's Julie, and I'm going to be sharing how to foil and cut on your Cricut using pre-made card bases. I've already got a file here I've uploaded into Design Space. This is available in my digital shop, and I'm going to add it to the canvas, and Design Space always brings everything in all grouped, and everything is considered a cut line unless you go in and change it. So I'm going to grab the foil pattern here after I've ungrouped everything so I can work with each of these layers individually. I'm going to grab the foil pattern, and right now it's a basic cut, but I don't want it to cut. I want it to foil. So I'm going to change the operation to foil medium. And there we go. It's converted it. And now I can see some of the other layers through those foil lines. I can also edit the name of this layer by double clicking on it. And sometimes that's helpful for organizations so that you know, oh, this is going to be the foiling part of the whole project. And then these berries, they're red. And then I've got pink berries, but I'm going to change the names of them, and then I'm going to hide them just because it's easier for me to see what I'm doing here and keep myself organized. So I'm going to hide them just for now. And you can then go down to the cut lines for the leaves, and you can see that they're red and they're still going to cut. So we're going to leave that alone. We're going to go down to the next layer, and it turned blue. That's going to be a score line. So I need to change that operation to score if I were using the whole design, but we're not going to actually use the card part of this. So I'm going to, because I have a pre-made card, right? I've already got a card that I've scored and cut ready to go. So we're going to do a little bit of modifying here. Now leave that green card there where you see it. The most important thing to do is to get the leaf cut lines and the foiling attached to each other. So I'm going to grab the foil pattern, and I'm going to grab the leaves, and I'm going to click attach. And that means those operations need to be performed in the same location, exactly where I see it. We're not going to attach the card, and I'll explain why, but I'm going to rename it so that we know that's the card. And I probably should rename those cut leaves so that I know. I'm going to call them pop out leaves, but that's a cut line. So I know what those are. And then if you want to, you can save this after you've done this setup. You can save this project in your design space by hitting the save button, and it will save everything as you've set it up right here. So I'm going to turn on those pink and red berries now. You can see them. Their foil lines are included so that you know exactly where to glue your berries down, and they'll get cut on another mat, in different colors of cardstock. So right now, everything else is ready to go. We're going to hit make it, and you can see it through my berries onto a red mat, and that's because the berries are red, so it's going to cut them out on red cardstock. Right now, we need to get to the second mat, which has the foiling and the cutting. And there you can see my design. That's not where I need it located, though. And now we're going to do a little bit of machine fooling. So I'm going to move this over to the green mat where my base card is. So now I've got my card and I've got my foiling. Now it's not set up correctly. I'm going to have to do this manually, and I can move each of these around independently. So that card is going to act as a base or a placeholder on my screen. So I know exactly where to put the foil and wreath pattern on my paper. So now I'm going to take that card and line it up, and I'm setting it up so that the grid line there, the number 7 grid line running vertically, is going to be my center line on that panel of the card. And remember, this green card is just a placeholder so that I know where to put the actual wreath and the foil lines. So I'm going to center that pattern there along the 7-inch grid line there, because I know that that's pretty much the center of my card front. So I'm just going to use the word piece to help me visually line that up. And yes, I'm eyeballing, but it works out pretty good. Once I've got that where I need it, I can go ahead and grab the card base itself. We're not going to need this because we're already working with a pre-made card. So I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to hide it. Gets rid of it. Now stay with me. Stay with me for the next step. So we're just going to ignore those other red screens right now. We're just going to go ahead and continue on because I'm focusing here on the green mat. You can always go back to the red and the pink and do what you got to do with those. But right now I'm just focusing on the card itself. So now I'm going to tell it to choose a medium cardstock for my base material. And I like to use more pressure when I'm foiling. And I ticked remember the material settings, so when it cuts everything else with this file, it will know that that's the kind of cardstock I'm working with. Now, on my physical mat, I've set up my card, which has already been scored and cut, right here using the same lines that I used in the on-screen mat to get that physically located in the right position. Now I need to get my foil laid down. So I cut my piece of foil, or I trimmed it just a little bit to measure the front of my card, just to make sure I have enough overlap, or enough, what do I want to say, border around where the foil design is going to go and the cutting wreath is going to go, so that I don't have my foil lines crossing over any washi tape. So I have to have an allowance there. And I find that a 1/2 inch allowance from the edge of my card is great. So I'm going to go ahead and use a acrylic block and some washi tape. And the acrylic block is just to hold that foil down so it doesn't move and shift around on me, because you don't want the foil to land on the sticky part of your cutting mat, because it will transfer the foil and kind of gunk up your mat. So plus you want all that delicious foil to transfer onto your card, not onto your cutting mat. So now I'm going to go ahead and finish taping this. And you just want to make sure that you pull taut. You want this foil, you don't want it loose and floppy or bubbly on top of the surface. You want it smooth and flat and taut over the top of your project. So now I'm going to go ahead and hit the load button. And the reason why I'm working in the center of the mat like this is because I'm going to be able to move or remove the foil later on. But if I have it positioned towards the top of my cutting mat, it's really hard under that rolling bar to try to remove anything. So that's why I like to push my design down towards the center of the mat. It's easier to access. So I'm going to pop the medium foil tip into the carriage holder and then go ahead and hit the C button. And I did speed this up like 500%. Don't unload it when it's done foiling. Leave it in there. And the first thing you want to do, and I didn't realize I was off camera here, but I'm carefully removing the foil and the washi tape, and I'm going to switch out my blade like the machine is telling me. And then I'm going to hit the go button again. And now it's going to come around and it's going to cut out all my leaf shapes. And it doesn't need to cut out the rest of the card because we hid that on the screen setup. And now you can see I've already got my pre-cut scored card with a pretty foil and pop out leaf pattern. Now you want to curl your mat and remove your project, and be a little bit careful, because I wasn't, and you're going to end up seeing I actually tore one of the leaves because I wasn't careful enough. It's like I get in such a hurry because I'm so excited to see what the end is going to look like. And there you can see those leaves will pop up. And you've got the little circles there to tell you where to glue on the red and pink dots there to create the berries. See? And there where I tore that one leaf, you can kind of, depending on how bad it is, you can actually fix that. So I'm going to come in with a little bit of glue here, just a smidge, and I'm going to try to burnish that down and repair it, because I'm like, that's the only thing that's wrong with this. So I'm just going to kind of glue it back together, and it'll work out fine. Nobody will notice. And if they're so persnickety that they, fault me for that, well, then they don't get to keep the card. They don't get to have the card. I'm not going to send them the card. And then, let it dry, and then you can go around and pop those leaves back up. And wow, pretty card, very simple. I love the foil on that. Hope that helps, and thanks for watching.